Hi lovelies, how has your morning been? And happy Thursday. Or is it happy Thursday? So I woke up this morning feeling just a little bit, not too sure of what kind of day it was going to be. And that was set off to a nice start because Tilly, who's 10 years old, and I snuggled up for an extra 23 minutes and watched an episode of Friends. And it was the one with the New Year's resolutions, where Ross had decided that he was going to do something new every day and then managed to get himself trapped in his leather trousers and ended up with powder and some kind of body lotion and made a horrible paste and all of that stuff. Anyway, it was a really nice start to the day, but it was also that funny kind of reminder where I was thinking, gosh, how nice is it just to have loads of friends around you? How nice is it just to be able to chill out and have those people together? And actually, so many of us just don't have that right now. And that's taking a big toll in many, many different ways. And although I have lots and lots of resources that I can use to tap into that as well, it doesn't always make it any easier. Knowing that you have the solution to something that doesn't feel good doesn't always help when it's not quite the solution that you were looking for. But what we are going to talk about today is the things that you can't afford to ignore during pregnancy. So, what might some of those things be? And it's just like that mood I had this morning when I started off thinking, how am I going to get done what I need to get done today if I continue to feel like this? It has to shake off, it has to go away, because otherwise I'll try and force everything that I need to do for the whole day. That doesn't feel good, it doesn't get me results, and I'm not in my best form then to be able to give you what you need and what I really want to be able to share with you. So I have to remember again and again that I am the leader of me, I am the boss of me. And yes, it's okay to have a little bit of a pity party from time to time, to just wallow in some of the, it just doesn't feel good, and to want to shrink. But actually staying there for too long just makes everything worse and everything even more difficult. So, what might you be ignoring during your pregnancy? Now, it might go without saying, but I'm going to say it because I want to make sure that everybody is safe and everybody is well. Obviously, if it was ever anything medical, if you were experiencing pain, if you were experiencing bleeding, or you were experiencing anything that gave you cause for alarm, including reduced movements of your baby, of course, you would phone your midwife, go straight to A&E, phone the hospital, you would do whatever you need to do. This is not what this is about. This is about the other things that you could ignore for a long time, but then they will come back to bite you in the end. So, what might some of those things be that you would like to ignore during pregnancy? You know, that whole kind of, let's just stick our fingers in the ears, la 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 la, I don't want to think about it. And that's exactly what Joey was doing in Friends this morning. So, what might some of those things be? For many mums, particularly as they get into their second trimester and beyond, it's a fear of birth. So if you are fearful about giving birth, then you're more uptight in your body, you're more uptight in your mind, and as time progresses, you continue to fill yourself with these stories that make you feel negative, that make you feel more concerned, and you'll always find the evidence that you're looking for. So if you're looking for evidence that birth is difficult, birth is painful, has to be traumatic, it's dangerous, it's hard, it's challenging, you won't be able to do it, you'll find that evidence everywhere. But if you start to look for the evidence that you can do this, that other people can have amazing births, so why not you? That euphoric and orgasmic births exist, so why not you? That other people can give birth practically pain-free, so why not you? And so when we begin to look at it from the other way around and start looking for the positive evidence, we can find it. So, birth is one of the things that can really scare people. Labour, part of the same thing, but obviously the actual labour part can be longer than the part where you actually birth your baby. And so if you go into labour without the tools and techniques that you need to be able to stay calm, then you're holding that tension in your body, which makes it more difficult for your baby to be born. It increases all of the hormones that make it more difficult for your baby to be born, because that sends stress and strain around your body. And nobody in the world has ever seen a gazelle give birth in the middle of a great big plain while there is a pride of lions around her. Doesn't happen. If you feel unsafe, your body holds on to that baby. It's a natural primal instinct. And so we're looking to increase those feelings of feel good. Body image. Body image is a really big one in pregnancy. Whether or not you already loved how you looked before doesn't really matter, because so many of us, our body image just starts to go like this. I have a very, very beautiful friend, and she is textbook model beautiful who lives in London. And when I first met her, she was in her late 20s. She said at that point she felt like she was a little bit overweight. And then I saw her again when she was in her early 30s and she was still talking, I'm overweight, I'm overweight. Now she's just turned 40. And when we look back through the photos over the years, she keeps finding these images where she looks radiant and beautiful, as she always was. And she looks back and she says, why did I never appreciate how beautiful I was right then? And it's the same thing. We just see one thing, and if our mind is looking for that one thing, that's what we find the evidence to confirm. So when she started to notice that she wasn't speaking kindly to herself, that she was feeling negative, she was reinforcing that negativity, when in fact she could choose to feel really different about it. So she's now started to make big strides forward on how she feels about her body, and recognising that if she feels negative about her body image, that plays out in many different ways in her life, but it also really impacts on her children, and she doesn't want her children to grow up thinking that they're not good enough, that something about them is not right either. So when we have a negative body image in pregnancy, it can make us feel a bit hopeless, like we want to give up. It can make us feel unsexy or unattractive. It can make us feel like we don't want to go out, not that there's many places to go to right now, but it can make us feel we don't want to do so many things because, well, we just don't feel good and our clothes don't fit, and maybe you've just adopted loungewear all the time, but you still don't feel like you're from Made in Chelsea. You know, all these things can just really have a big knock-on effect to how we feel and what we do. That can affect your relationship, and then what do you do with it? You know, this one thing, the body image, could just suddenly get really out of control. And so if you are kind of comfort eating, buried into that, oh, you know, everything's okay, I'm eating for two, I'm eating for two. Well, you don't need to eat for two. That's a bit of a myth, which I think is really cruel, because we've always been led to believe, certainly when I was growing up, oh, eating for two, so it was always okay. But actually, you only need to increase your calorie intake in your third trimester, and that's only 200 to 300 extra calories a day. And they need to be good calories. They can't just be 5 green rings one after the other, because the hole in the middle is good for you and it doesn't count. They need to be useful calories. But if you find yourself getting into a negative body image, that then knocks onto your energy, knocks onto what you want to do and don't want to do on a daily basis. And before you know it, you're just putting on more weight, feeling more stiff, more aches and pains, putting more pressure on your body, putting more pressure on your pelvic floor. And that can affect your long-term continence. You don't want to be the person who finds themselves peeing all the time, whether they want to or not, after birth. So there's plenty of things that you can do, but if you know that your body confidence is suffering right now, pull right back. There's so many amazing images. In fact, I'm going to find some amazing images and share them for you on this page later on today, because it's huge. It's a really big help. So if body confidence is something that you're struggling with right now, then find ways to feel good about it. And I'm going to come on to those in just a few moments. What about finance? Anybody like talking about money when they're pregnant? It can be a really scary one, can't it? So maybe you're thinking, what's going to happen when my maternity pay drops? Maybe you're not entitled to maternity pay in the first place. Maybe you're having to rely on your partner. How does your partner feel about that? Is he the puff chest, I'm proud to provide for my darling wife, my partner, and my children? Is he proud to provide for his family? Does he feel pride? Does he feel like he trusts himself to be the sole provider for his family? Or is he secretly thinking, oh, I wish you'd get your finger out and stop buying stuff off Amazon every day? Why have we got all these maternity clothes when you're only going to be wearing them for 6 months? You know, how is that conversation going? What's happening when it comes to finance? Are you cutting back on things? Are you just saying it's fine, we're going to earn more money? Are you moving house? Have you factored in all of the different things that comes with a house move? So what's happening with your money? And when you think about your money, does it make you, shy away and get small and a bit scared? Just make it go away, please. Or are you doing something about the finance? So we're going to come to ways to deal with all of these things. What about your general confidence? Have your anxiety levels gone sky high through the roof? I know so many people who are struggling with this lockdown. And again, I am not immune to it. Since we've moved into this house, we just moved to this house in September last year. and it took us a long time to sell our house before. We got stuck for kind of an extra 3 months waiting for lockdown to ease so that we could move in the first place. It was a big relocation, a 400-mile relocation back home to the Highlands, which is where I am now. It was stressful for multiple different ways. And then when we got here, all the COVID stuff was going on. And so it was really, really difficult to start to welcome people into my home, into the home studio where I am now for yoga and for classes. So we've moved everything to be online. My husband still finds himself driving up and down the road to Leeds. So he was not every day, thankfully. So he had like a 6-hour journey every time he had to go back for a work meeting and then 6 hours back again. My stepdaughter still living down in West Yorkshire with her mum, so it's a big tie to be in a different place from her. She had many house moves in the years before, so it's really difficult, all these different challenges that just kind of build up. And so our confidence can get knocked. Now, we've been very, very lucky in our situation because this was very much a planned move. It had been on the cards for at least a year, definitely. We were already actively saving. We were already actively making sure that we knew what we wanted to do when it came to a mortgage. We already had all of these things in process, but we had the luxury of time. Maybe you don't have the luxury of time. If your baby was a sudden ta-da surprise baby, then you might not have been prepared and been anticipating a house move on top of that. So when all of these things start to feel like they're everywhere and our mind is darting and our sleep gets affected, we want to go back to the comfort eating. We want to just cuddle up on the sofa, just put Netflix on, just press play, put it on auto. Oh, look, it's another one. Okay, toilet break, make a cup of tea. When we get ourselves to that situation, it takes such a big toll on your mental health, and it can be really challenging to pull back and to start to feel good again. So what can you do if you are experiencing any of these things? Well, there's a number of things that you can do that will start to make you feel better right now. One is that know that you are not alone. You're absolutely not alone. Other people will be feeling very similar to you, and other people will also be leading the way or looking for inspiration. So you can choose to tap into some of what they're doing, or you can choose to be the leader in your own way and decide what you want to do. And both can be effective. Maybe you take a little bit of an idea from there and then run with it from here. One of the first things I would encourage you to do is to decide that you're going to face up to it. You know, I have friends and clients who I've worked with in a coaching capacity over the years who have literally just had every letter drop through their letterbox and they've ignored it. And then it's got to 6 months and they're saying to me, oh, when we do our session next, can we just go through some of this mail? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And the mail is like this. And in their head, there's lots of bills and there's lots of threats and there's lots of stuff that's really concerning. And when we actually go through it, there might only be 3 or 4 documents that need to be dealt with. But it's been a big, big thing that's built up in their head. And so when we find a way to just say, I'm going to face this now, whatever this looks like, it's not going to go away. It's only going to be the dragon, the beast in the corner that gets more and more power. So let's come back to it and let's start to do something with it that makes a really big difference. So if you sit to write down, what is it that's worrying you? What are all these different things? But rather than list the minute detail, which, let's face it, for anybody at any given time could go like this, of things that were worrying them or things that were concerning them. If you sit to write those just in broad brushstroke headings, so one might be health, and that can include your mental health. One might be finance. One might be home or relationship. Work would already come under finance. Feeling body confidence, all of those things, so that could come under relationship with yourself. Just when you start to write your broad headlines, you will notice that you may only have 3 or 4 things that you need to worry about. And if you have lots more than 3 or 4, see if you can put them back under a different category. And if you can't, just recognise, okay, so we're going to deal with these one thing at a time. When you see it broken down like that, it can feel easier because you realise that this is one heading that has these issues, as opposed to this issue, this one, and it continuing. So it can then feel easier to look at it. Then you can start to prioritise underneath those headings exactly what it is that needs to change and what can you do right now. It's the whole thing, isn't it? The hardest part of doing yoga is getting your mat on the floor in the morning. Of going for a run is putting your trainers on. Of being able to feel better, sometimes it's just opening the blinds and letting the sun shine in. Something I'll be doing after this as well. And so we can start to look and see, what do we need to do that can be different? Decide to go for a walk. As soon as you've done your list, I would say go for a walk. Even if it's raining, even if it's windy, it's glorious here today where I am. So go for a walk. When you get outside and you move your body, movement is medicine. The more that you can move, the more you get the feel-good hormones going again in your system. The physical action of walking, especially if you're not carrying a bag. Bags are like, just mess up your energy so much. So if you're bag free and you can walk and let your arms swing and your legs swing, you start to get both the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain to integrate and to work better together. And when they're working better together, you're going to feel much more positive. And so going for that walk, get the fresh air, get the sun on your face, get perspective. That all those things that are worrying you, whether it's the spare room hasn't even been started to be turned into a nursery yet and it's a complete mess. When you start to move your body, when you start to get out and get an idea, these mountains are huge, these trees are huge, and I'm this tiny little person worried about what's under the bed in the spare room. And that's not to mock anything you're worried about. It's to recognise that that's a concern, but it doesn't have to be a concern all of the time. And so we can start to make a big difference really quickly. Walking is a great way for you to bond with your baby. Describe what you're walking past. Describe where you are. If you hear horses or sheep or cows or cars or motorbikes, let your baby know what that sound was. Because from 16 weeks plus, when they're still in your womb, their hearing is beginning to develop more and more, and they will be picking up signs. And so the more that you talk to them, the more that you're bonding, the more that you're making them a part of your experience. Yoga. Who knew I was going to suggest yoga? So prenatal yoga is a brilliant way for you to remove the pregnancy aches and pains, to sleep better. Anyone else feel like their face looks a lot nicer when you're not in pain and when you slept better? So prenatal yoga helps to remove the aches and pains, help you to sleep better, help you to bond with your baby, which helps your emotional well-being. You feel more connected. You remember that many of these things that you're experiencing, such as heartburn or backache, yoga can also help those, but you also remember that there's a bigger purpose as to why those exist in the first place. So yoga also great for helping you to get into more active birth positions, which can create up to 28% more space in your pelvis. It can help you to feel more empowered, and who doesn't feel better after a good stretch? So if you look at children run around all day long. They're excited, they're bouncing up and down. There's milkshake, there's chocolate, there's TV, there's wind, there's rain, there's snow, there's sunshine, whatever is going on. They get really excited and they get activated. Their body gets full of this energy and this fizziness. They burst in through the door. Guess what, guess what, guess what? They can't wait to tell you. Think about how you feel when you've been sat on the sofa for 3 hours drinking a cup of tea. And you've kind of dropped down and drooped and the shoulders have gone and everything's just got a bit more tense or a bit more lethargic and there's just no energy. And when you get yourself to that feeling of no energy, you forget that you've got the power to do something different. We get tight, we get tense. We start to not take in as much oxygen, again, which has an impact on everything within our own body, but also within your unborn baby. And so when we begin to open up through the body, to stretch up, to make more space for your lungs, because those little space hoggers get quite big towards the end, but don't worry, because they will move further down the pelvis and you will get your lungs back. To get rid of just the tightness, then you start to feel more confident, more positive, more optimistic, because the way you're moving your body has a massive impact on everything else. I remember years ago, when we were living in West Yorkshire, seeing all the mountain bikers come whizzing down the hills on a Sunday morning and then sit to have their coffee at the coffee shop. And every single one of them, it's like their faces were just blown open. They didn't have this tight mouth. I've just been sat at my laptop all day. I feel uptight and tense, wide open. And it's that feeling of expansion where you're open to possibility. You're open to life being good again. Hypnobirthing. Hypnobirthing is a brilliant way to understand the mind-body connection, to understand the science and the physiology of birth. Yes, there is a hypnosis element involved in there where we help to reprogram your subconscious mind, which is full of everything you've ever heard, seen, witnessed, thought of about birth. And so whether you like it or not, your subconscious mind is already influencing how you feel, how you act, and what will happen during your birth. So the more that you can do to tap into the subconscious mind, to fill it with the positive stuff, the more likely you are to stack the odds in your favour of a better birth experience, of less trauma, of less tearing, of less feeling like birth happened to you, and more of a feeling that you gave birth. And that's so, so important. We teach you how to become an expert in relaxation, because when you're an expert in relaxation, your birth is likely to be a shorter labour, more comfortable, more ease, to feel more confident, to feel more calm and relaxed in your mind, to be able to have the voice that you need to ask for what you want. So hypnobirthing is really powerful. It doesn't have to be a big expense. I offer it in the Prenatal Snug, which is the online sanctuary I've created for pregnant women just like you who want to enjoy their pregnancy and prepare for a calm and relaxed labour and a better birth. It's only £20 a month, so if you've got that on your finance list, factor it in. You'll be so, so glad that you did. Now, you also need community around you. How do you get your community? Where do you find pregnant women when you can't just go out and go to a class? Prenatal Snug. We're building our community in here where you know that there's people that you want to connect with. If you're based in the Highlands, you'll find people there from the Highlands. If you're based further out, you will also find people from further out. Everybody is welcome in the same way that Highland Hospitality, aside from COVID, make everybody welcome. Everybody is welcome in the Snug. So what else can we do? Sleep better. We need to improve your sleep so that you feel better for the rest of your pregnancy and for birth. So if that means extra cushions under your knees, under your ankles, to make sure that your bump feels supported, you want to be sleeping on your left-hand side from third trimester the whole way through. That's safer for your baby, it's safer for you, and make sure that you don't feel dizzy, and make sure that your baby gets all of the oxygen and nutrients that they need. So start to look at your sleep hygiene. What needs to happen? Do you need to switch off the phone earlier? Do you need to listen to a relaxation when you go to bed? Again, plenty of those in the Prenatal Snug, live, pre-recorded recordings that you can access on demand whenever you need to. Do you need to make the room cooler, get into the habit of having a shower or a bath? Really increasing your level of self-care can make a massive difference to how you feel going forwards. Also, when you sleep better, your mind gets a lot less panicky, and so you're able to think more clearly and plan what you need to do. So if you've been lacking in motivation to do any of the stuff that you need to do, knowing that moving your body in a different way, increasing your oxygen intake, drinking more water, eating a bit better, and getting out can make a difference. So if you do nothing else today and you're just like, oh, Sophia, I'll start all of that tomorrow, it's too much, then go for a walk to your local shop right now. Buy something tasty that is fruit or veg, something that's going to just put a little smile on your face. Walk back home again, look up. You know, when we look up rather than down or just to the side, we access a different part of our brain, a part that makes us feel happy. So why do we think when we're on holidays, we're always looking at the architecture up here or the top of the trees or the sky and the clouds or the birds? Because they're beautiful, but it also has a direct impact on your mind. So don't ignore the things that are getting you down right now. They will only get worse. They'll only chip away at your energy until you feel like you've got a really big issue to deal with. Get the support that you need. You're not a burden. People love to help you. I love to help you. I love to support. I love to inspire, to educate, to be here, to empathise, and to roll up my sleeves and say, well, what are we going to do about this? And that's my passion. So check out the Prenatal Snug if you haven't already. It is at sophiahansen.com/services. And I'm running a free mini workshop, chat, get together, whatever you'd like to call it, next Friday evening, 5:45 till 7 o'clock. It's live, it's online. You'll see the link in my Highlands Birth and Beyond Facebook page. I'll also drop the link down below. All you need to do is join the Facebook group, turn up, bring your worries, bring your concerns, and let's find ways to be able to deal with them. In that session, I will teach you a breathing technique so that you can start to feel more calm. And I'll be doing some other exciting things that you'll just need to find out about on the Facebook page or just come along and join us. Okay, lovelies, have a lovely Thursday afternoon. I'm off for a tiny quiche, honestly, the smallest quiche I've ever seen. It's about this size. And then I'm going to go and have a walk in the sunshine and let some of the wind blow away any spare cobwebs. Talk soon. Lots of love. Bye bye for now.